Hello, and welcome to this episode of the OSEAL Family Guide to Special Education. This series is here to help you understand how special education works. This way, you can work more effectively with your child's teachers and ask the right questions to support their needs. When parents and teachers work together as a team, it creates a strong support system for your child that helps them do better in school, both academically and with their social and emotional skills. In this episode, we will be learning about the Individual Education Program, or IEP. I'm Marcy Bridges. In this episode, we will discuss all things IEP, the Individual Education Program, including its development and contents. We'll also review some important information about the Admissions and Release Committee, or ARC. To begin talking about the IEP, it's important to note there are rules that govern its development. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, is the federal law that gives qualified children with disabilities the right to receive special and related services in public schools. Kentucky has its own rules for special education called Kentucky Administrative Regulations for Special Education Programs, or KARs. These work alongside the national law to make sure children get the right support. Both the IDEA and KARs apply to children from ages 3 to 21, or preschool to high school. An IEP is a written program that details the help and services a school will give to children who need special education. It is written by the ARC, which includes the parents. It ensures they can learn with everyone else. Let's review the members of the ARC, which is very important in the educational journey of children with disabilities. For a breakdown of the key roles and what they do during the ARC meetings, please see our previous episode in this series, Family Guide to Special Education, Episode 1, Evaluation and Eligibility. Members of the ARC include parents, regular education teacher, representative of agency, special education teacher, evaluation interpreter, and the child. The ARC can have more people than just these mentioned. The team might include extra members like occupational or vision therapists, more teachers, transition service providers like the Office for Vocational Rehabilitation, or other experts if a child has a specific learning disability. These experts might be called school psychologists, speech-language pathologists, or educational specialists. You can also bring other people to the meeting, like family members, who can give the school important information about your child. Remember, the goal of the ARC is to create an effective, individualized program for each child. The child's ARC creates the IEP, makes sure it is followed, checks progress on goals, and updates the IEP as needed. Parents must be involved in creating and updating the IEP. The school must provide opportunities for the parents to provide meaningful input on the IEP through parent participation in the process. The IEP process helps families and schools discuss a child's needs and decide the special education services needed to support your child. During this process, parents can share what makes their child unique, including their history, strengths, and weaknesses. Share important goals for your child. Express concerns and insights about your child's interests and learning styles. Advocate for your child. And make sure your child's input is considered or encourage their participation in the ARC. The ARC is the group that creates and reviews this plan to make sure it still fits your child's needs. The initial evaluation is the first evaluation to see if your child is eligible for special education services. The annual review happens 1 year after the initial evaluation to update your child's IEP goals based on their progress. There will be a meeting every year, as long as your child continues to be eligible for special education. The re-evaluation takes place every 3 years to decide if your child still needs special education or related services based on their individual needs. An IEP has several sections with important information about your child. For a full list, you can check the KARs, the Guidance for IEP Development document, or a sample IEP template on our website. There's a link for that at the end of this presentation. Today, we'll talk about things like the present levels of academic achievement and functional performance, or present levels for short, measurable annual goals and benchmarks, reporting your child's progress, accommodations for the administration of state assessments and assessments in the classroom, the least restrictive environment, or LRE, the special education services, and the related services. The present levels of academic achievement and functional performance, which most people call the present levels, gives a summary of what your child knows and can do in all areas. It shows their strengths, needs, and interests, providing a baseline for the IEP. These are the foundation on which the IEP is built, and the basis for creating measurable annual goals, specially designed instruction, and supports and services to meet the individual needs of your child. This section gives a description of how the disability affects your child's learning and progress in the general curriculum. It gives a detailed explanation of how your child's disability makes learning difficult. It also highlights their strengths, which is important to help support your child to overcome their challenges. The many areas of the present levels include communication, academic performance, health, vision, hearing, and motor abilities, social and emotional status, general intelligence, transition needs, functional vision or learning media assessment, and functional hearing, listening, and communication assessment. The present levels section shows what your child currently knows and can do in different areas. Communication status. How well your child understands and expresses language, including how well others can understand what they say and how smoothly they speak and read. Academic performance. How your child is doing in subjects like reading, math, and writing. Health, vision, hearing, and motor skills. Information about your child's health and physical needs, including any therapy needs. Social and emotional skills. Details about how your child works together with others and their behavior at school. More areas of the present levels are general intelligence, a summary of your child's thinking and reasoning abilities, transition needs, information about your child's community experiences, job skills, future living plans, and daily skills. This is required starting in 8th grade or at age 14, whichever comes first. Functional Vision Learning Media Assessment and Functional Hearing, Listening, and Communication Assessment are for children with visual or hearing impairments. These sections will explain how these impairments affect a child's learning. If the ARC does not have concerns in a specific area, they can mark it as not an area of concern at this time and move on. Another important section of the IEP is the annual goals. IEP goals are updated every year to reflect your child's progress and current needs. The law says IEP goals must be measurable. This means they outline what the ARC thinks your child can do within the next year or sooner. They focus on specific skills or strategies that the child needs based on their disability. Measurable annual goals aim to close the gap between the child's current level or baseline and where they need to be, the goal. These goals address the skills needed for success and do not just repeat content standards. The law says annual goals must be appropriately ambitious, which means they should be challenging but achievable based on the child's current abilities and potential for growth. The ARC uses data from these goals to review your child's progress, strengths, and ongoing needs. The IEP will also include information on how progress towards the goals will be measured. To be measurable, the child's progress must be tracked. This might include specific indicators like a reading level, or phrases like in 3 out of 5 trials, or at least 50% of the time. For example, subtraction skills might be checked twice a week using a test made by the teacher. Progress monitoring means regularly checking how a child is doing with their IEP goals. The special education teacher watches how the child is doing and writes it down at specific intervals throughout the school year as they work with the child on their IEP goals. The IEP explains how and when this progress is measured. At the annual ARC meeting, the child's progress is reviewed with the family and ARC members. The IEP also tells when parents will get updates on their child's progress, for example, with their report cards or progress reports. The IEP must also include when a report of this progress will be given to the parents. If you're wanting additional progress updates at other times, reach out to your child's special education teacher. Accommodations and modifications are also important parts of the IEP. It's important to know the difference between these. Accommodations change how the child gets information and shows what they know. For example, they might receive extra time to finish a test. These changes help your child understand and learn the material. Modifications change what the child is expected to learn. For example, a child who struggles with reading might be given something to read that is shorter compared to their classmates. Or they might be asked to draw a comic showing some causes for the Revolutionary War instead of writing an essay about it. Both accommodations and modifications help children, but they have different effects. They both change from child to child and are based on the individual needs. Some accommodations used in class may not be allowed on state testing. Let's look at some more examples. Accommodations don't change what the child is expected to learn. Instead, they allow the child to show what they know. These changes give children the chance to show what they know in a way that works for them. Examples of accommodations for children with disabilities on the Kentucky Summative Assessment, the KSA, or the state assessment, are listed here. Parents and guardians should understand which accommodations are allowed on the state assessment to help decide if the child needs more intensive accommodations. If more intensive accommodations are needed and not allowed on the regular assessment, the child might qualify for the alternate assessment. Modifications let children show their knowledge in different ways. like doing fewer problems on an assignment, writing shorter papers, or answering fewer test questions. Modifications can also allow children to use a special schedule or other visual organization tools. Children may also complete their schoolwork by doing real-world tasks, such as counting money, reading a bus schedule, or measuring ingredients for a recipe. Another part of the IEP is the Least Restrictive Environment, or LRE. The law says children with disabilities must be educated with children without disabilities as often as is fitting for the child. Supplementary aids and services, accommodations, and modifications can help children participate with non-disabled peers across the school settings. LRE is determined at least once a year and should be as close as possible to the child's home. It includes school-based, non-academic, and extracurricular services and activities. For example, clubs, field trips, and sports. The LRE is always based on the child's needs, the child's expected outcomes, and the IEP. The law says that children with disabilities should learn alongside their peers without disabilities as much as possible. But every child is different, so the ARC looks at a range of placement options to find the best fit for your child's needs. Here's a breakdown of those options from least restrictive, most time with peers in general education, to most restrictive, which are more specialized settings. General education classroom with support. Your child learns in the same classroom as other children with extra help like a co-teacher, accommodations, or support services. Special education classes, such as resource or a separate setting. Your child spends part or all of their day in smaller classes with a special education teacher. This might be for subjects where they need more help. Special schools. These are schools designed specifically for children with disabilities who need more intensive support than a regular school can provide. Home instruction. If your child cannot attend school due to medical or another reason, learning may happen at home with a teacher who visits. Hospital or institutional settings. For children who are receiving care in a hospital or residential facility, education is provided there. The ARC considers your child's strengths, challenges, and goals when deciding on placement. The goal is always to support your child in the most inclusive setting possible, while still meeting their individual needs. Special Education Services explains the details of the services provided to your child. The information in this section is decided by the ARC when developing the goals and specially designed instruction. This includes how long and how often the services will be provided, including the start and end dates. It also includes where the services will take place and who will provide the services. For example, this section might say 60 minutes, one time per day, beginning August 15th, 2025, and ending August 14th, 2026. The service provider might be the special education teacher, and the location might be in the resource room for reading. Related services are part of an IEP for children who need support in other areas, such as speech-language services, sign language services, physical or occupational therapy, and transportation. Not every child needs related services. This will be discussed by the ARC and will be put into the IEP if it is needed. When parents and schools work together, everyone wins. Most importantly, your child has the best chance to succeed. If you have questions about what you've heard today, there are many places you can get help. You can talk to your child's teacher or case manager. You can also contact the Director of Special Education for your child's school district. If you don't know who that is, you can visit our open house, district and school directory to find the Director of Special Education for your district. If your child is in preschool, you can contact your child's district Board of Education and ask for the preschool coordinator. You can also reach out to us here at the KDE Office of Special Education and Early Learning. Our phone number will be at the end of the presentation. Be sure to check out the resources on this page for further information regarding IEPs, the alternate assessment, and transition services and requirements in Kentucky. We hope that you have found this information helpful. Be sure to check out the first episode in this series, Family Guide to Special Education, Episode 1, Evaluation and Eligibility. If you need more help, please contact us at 502-564-4970. Thank you.